बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। फ़ीमेल एनाटमी स्टार्ट करते हैं। सबसे पहले एक्सटर्नल जेनिटेलिया की बात करेंगे। What is external genitalia? External genitalia are commonly called the vulva. And what includes vulva? Vulva includes the mons pubis, labia majora, minora, and vaginal vestibule, the clitoris, and the greater vestibular glands. The mons pubis. And now, what is the mons pubis? Mons pubis is a fibro-fatty pad covered by hair-bearing skin that covers the bony pubic ramus. The labia majora. Labia majora are two folds of skin with underlying adipose tissue lying either side of the vaginal opening. They contain sebaceous and sweat glands and a few specialized apocrine glands. In the deepest part of each labium is a core of fatty tissue continuous with that of the inguinal canal and the fibers of the round ligament which terminate here. Okay, what about the labia minora? This is about this thing. Okay, side by side we will highlight this. Okay, this is the labia majora, and now the labia minora. Labia minora are the two thin folds of the skin that lie between the labia majora, and these vary in size and may protrude beyond the labia major, where they are visible but may also be concealed by the labia majora. Anteriorly, they divide into two forms to form the pubis and frenulum of the clitoris, यानी कि क्लाइटोरल हुड बनाएगा. एंड पोस्टीरियरली दे डिवाइड टू फॉर्म अ फोल्ड ऑफ स्किन कॉल्ड द फोरशेट एट द बैक ऑफ द वजाइनल इंट्राइटिस. तो माइनोरा जो है उसकी एंटीरियर एक्सटेंट क्या है? क्लाइटोरल हुड. एंड द पोस्टीरियर एक्सटेंट क्या है? फोरशेट. And they contain spacious glands but have no adipose tissue. They are not well developed before puberty and atrophy after the menopause. Both the labia minora and labia majora become engorged during sexual arousal. Okay, now about the clitoris. Clitoris is basically erectile structure measuring between approximately 0.5 to 3.5 centimeter in length, and the body of the clitoris is the main part of the visible clitoris and is made up of paired columns of the erectile tissue and vascular tissue called the corpora cavernosa. These become the crura at the bottom of the clitoris and run deeper and laterally. The vestibule is the. Now what about the vestibule? Next part is vestibule. Vestibule is basically the cleft between the labia minora, and it contains the openings of the urethra, Bartholin gland, and the vagina. The vagina. Next is the vagina. Vagina is surrounded by two bulbs of erectile and vascular tissue that are extensive and almost completely cover the distal vaginal wall. These have traditionally been named the bulb of the vaginal vestibule, although recent work on both dissection and magnetic resonance imaging suggests that they may be part of clitoris and should be renamed clitoral bulbs. Okay? And their function is unknown, but they probably add support to the distal vaginal wall to enhance its rigidity during penetration. So this is about the two bulbs of the erectile and vascular tissues. Okay, the Bartholin glands. Next is the very important part of external genitalia is the Bartholin gland. Are bilateral and about the size of a pea, and they open via a 2 centimeter duct into the vestibule below the hymen and contribute to the lubrication during intercourse. Okay, next is the hymen. Hymen is a thin covering of the mucous membrane across the entrance to the vagina, and it usually perforated, which allows menstruation. The hymen is ruptured during intercourse, and any remaining tags are called myotiforms. These are basically the remnants of the ruptured hymen. Okay, internal reproductive organs. Number one is vagina. The vagina is a fibromuscular canal lined with the stratified squamous epithelium. Very important point is this, that it is a स्केमस stratified squamous epithelium, ठीक है, that leads from the uterus to the vulva. So that means it's squamous epithelium. So the most common cancer of the vagina is squamous cell cancer, ठीक है. इट इज़ अगेन दिस इज़ एन MCQ एंड इट इज़ अ लॉन्गर. और ऊपर जो हमने पढ़ा था उसमें से जो बार्थलियन ग्लैंड्स की लोकेशन है ना, दिस ऑल्सो दे कैन आस्क इन MCQ, ठीक है. 7 centimeter, 9 centimeter, this is again very important point for the MCQ, कि posterior wall is 9 centimeter and the anterior wall is 7 centimeter. Okay, ठीक है. And the vaginal walls are normally in apposition except at the vault where they are separated by the cervix. The vault of the vagina is divided into 4 fornices: posterior, anterior and 2 lateral fornices. What about the mid vagina? Mid vagina is a transverse slit, while the lower vagina is the H-shaped transverse section, ठीक है. तो this is about mid vagina and the lower vagina. Vaginal walls are lined with the transverse folds. The vagina has no glands and is kept moist by secretions from the uterine and the cervical glands and by transudation from its epithelial lining. The epithelium is thick and rich in glycogen, which increases in the post-ovulatory phase of the cycle. However, before puberty and after the menopause, the vagina is devoid of glycogen. What about post-puberty? Sorry, before puberty and after the menopause, vagina is devoid of glycogen and due to the lack of estrogen, okay. This is important again. Okay, so Dodderlands bacillus is a normal commensal of the vaginal flora and breaks down the glycogen to form what? The lactic acid, producing a pH of around 4.5. This is again a very important point. The pH is around 4.5. When we talk about different vaginal discharges, vaginal infections, they cause the increase in the pH. So they cause mostly more than 4.5 in case of bacterial vaginosis and other infections. So normal pH is around 4.5, but even less than 4.5. This has the protective role for the vagina in decreasing the growth of pathogenic bacteria. So this is a very important factor to keep the vagina healthy. So actually why the infections occurs? When the alteration in the pH, it predispose the vagina to vaginal infections. The upper posterior wall forms the anterior peritoneal reflection of the pouch of Douglas, and the middle third is separated from the rectum by the pelvic fascia, and the lower third abuts the perineal body. Anteriorly, the vagina is in direct contact with the base of the bladder, while the urethra runs down the lower half of the half in the midline to open into the vestibule, and its muscle fuse with the anterior vaginal wall. Laterally at the fornices, the vagina is related to the cardinal ligaments. Below this are the levator ani muscles and the ischioractal fossa, the cardinal ligaments and the uterosacral ligaments, which form posteriorly from the parametrium, support the upper part of the vagina. So this is about vagina. What happens at birth? Okay, what happens at birth? At birth, the vagina is under the influence of maternal estrogen, so the epithelium is well developed, and after a couple of weeks, the effect of the estrogen disappear and the pH rises to 7, and the epithelium atrophies, and at puberty the reverse occurs, and finally at the menopause, vagina tends to shrink and epithelium atrophies once again. So this is the different physiological changes. What about uterus? Uterus is shaped like an inverted pear tapering inferiorly to the cervix, and it is in its non-pregnant state is situated entirely within the pelvis. It is a hollow and has thick muscular walls. Its maximum external dimensions are approximately 7. Side by side we highlight it. So its dimensions are 7.5 centimeter long and 5 point no 7.5 centimeter long and 5 centimeter wide and 3 centimeter thick. An adult uterus weighs approximately, uterus weight is 70 gram. In the upper part of the uterus is termed as the corpus, या body of the uterus. The area of insertion of each fallopian tube is termed as the cornu. This is the cornu, and that part of the body above the cornu is called the fundus. So the above cornu is the fundus. The uterus tapers to a small constricted area, the isthmus, and below this the cervix. So the next area is isthmus and the next area is cervix, which projects obliquely into the vagina. The longitudinal axis of the uterus is approximately at right angle to the vagina. So the longitudinal axis of the uterus is approximately right angle to the vagina and normally tilts forward. This is called anteversion. The normal uterus is anteverted. In addition, the long axis of the cervix is rarely the same as the long axis of the uterus. So the uterus is usually flexed forward on itself at the isthmus, anteflexion. However, in around 20% of women, the uterus is tilted backward, and what the backward is called retroversion or retroflexion. This has no pathological significance in most women, and although retroversion, that is fixed and immobile, may be associated with endometriosis. Okay, in mostly retroversion is not a pathological associated with pathology, but in some cases it can be endometriosis. The cavity of the uterus, if it is immobile, the cavity of the uterus is the shape of an inverted triangle, and when sectioned cornally, the fallopian tubes at lateral angles, the constriction at the isthmus where the corpus joins the cervix is the anatomical os, and seen microscopically, the site of the histological internal os is where the mucous membrane of the isthmus becomes that of the cervix. So the uterus consists of 3 layers: outer serous layer, peritoneum, the middle muscular layer, myometrium, and the inner mucous layer, endometrium. Okay. The peritoneum covers the body of the uterus, and posteriorly it covers the supravaginal part of the cervix. The peritoneum is intimately attached to the subserous fibrous layer except laterally, where it spreads out to form the leaves of the broad ligament. So laterally क्या होता है कि broad ligament बना रही है peritoneum. The muscular myometrium forms the main bulk of the uterus and is made up of interlacing smooth muscle fibers intermingling with the arteriolar tissue, blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatics. Externally, the muscle fibers are mostly longitudinal, but the thicker intermediate layer has interlacing longitudinal and oblique and transverse fibers. तीन तरह के fibers, ठीक है? And internally, they are mainly longitudinal and circular fibers. तो एक्सटर्नली उन्होंने क्या कहा, और एक्सटर्नली उन्होंने कहा मोस्टली जो फाइबर्स हैं वो लॉन्गिट्यूडनल है, और जो इंटरमीडिएट में 3 तरह के फाइबर्स हैं, लॉन्गिट्यूडनल, ऑब्लिक एंड ट्रांसवर्स, और जो इंटरनल लेयर है मसल्स की उसमें सिर्फ लॉन्गिट्यूडनल और सर्कुलर है, यानी कि 1, 3 एंड 2. ठीक है, इनके आउटर 1 टाइप ऑफ फाइबर्स हैं आउटर लेयर में, इनर लेयर में 3 टाइप्स ऑफ फाइबर्स हैं, और मोस्ट इनर लेयर में 2 टाइप्स ऑफ फाइबर्स हैं. द इनर एंडोमेट्रियल लेयर has tubular glands that dip into the myometrium, and the endometrial layer is covered by a single layer of columnar epithelium. So here the epithelium is columnar. That's why the most common cancer of the uterus is endometrioid. ठीक है, adenocarcinoma. So the adenocarcinoma of the uterus, and for cervix and for vagina is the squamous cell cancer. ठीक है, the endometrium undergoes cyclical changes during menstruation. Okay, cervix. What about cervix? Cervix is the narrower than the body of the uterus and is approximately 2.5 centimeter in length. 2.5 centimeter in length. तो 2.5 का फिगर वैसे भी बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. किस सेंस में इंपॉर्टेंट है कि जहाँ पर हम प्री टर्म लेबर की बात करते हैं तो अगर 2.5 सेंटीमीटर से कम हो या 2.5 सेंटीमीटर की लेंथ हो तो हम कहते हैं कि यहाँ पर प्री टर्म के चांसेस ज़्यादा हैं. तो lateral to the cervix lies cellular connective tissue called parametrium, and the ureter runs about 1 centimeter lateral to the supravaginal cervix within the parametrium. The posterior aspect of the cervix is covered by peritoneum of the pouch of Douglas. The upper part of the cervix mostly consists of involuntary muscles, whereas the lower part of the part is mainly fibrous connective tissue. The mucous membrane of the cervical canal endocervix has anterior and posterior columns from which folds radiate out, and it has numerous deep glandular follicles that secrete clear alkaline mucus and the main component of the physiological vaginal discharge. The epithelium of the endocervix is columnar and is also ciliated in its upper two-thirds, but this is the epithelium of the endocervix. There is a difference between the epithelium of endocervix and the epithelium of the ectocervix. So this changes to the stratified squamous epithelium around the region of the external os, okay, and the junction of these two types of epithelium is called squamocolumnar junction. Simply, any changes to the anatomy, the disappearance of the estrogens from the circulation after birth causes the uterus to decrease in length by around 1/3 and in weight by around 1/2. Okay, the cervix is then twice the length of. This is a very frequently asked MCQ, that this cervix is twice the length of the uterus. So neonate में या फिर infancy में या फिर in the early age of ages में cervix is longer than the uterus. During childhood, uterus grows slowly in length in parallel with the height and age. The average longitudinal diameter ranges from 2.5 centimeter at the age of 2 years to 3.5 centimeter at 10 years of age. And after the onset of puberty, the anteroposterior and transverse diameters of the uterus start to increase, leading to a sharper rise in the volume of the uterus. The increase in uterine volume continues well after menarche, and uterus reaches its adult size and configuration by late teenage years. After the menopause, the uterus atrophies, the mucosa becomes very thin, and glands almost disappear, and the walls become relatively less muscular. तो इसमें से जो याद करने वाली बात है वो जो सर्विक्स की है कि इन्फेंट्स में cervix is larger than uterus. Okay. Fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes extends outward from the uterine corner to end near the ovary at the abdominal ostium. The tube opens into the peritoneal cavity and which is therefore in communication with the exterior to the body via the uterus and the vagina. This is essential to allow the sperm and eggs to meet. The fallopian tubes convey the ovum from the ovary towards the uterus and promote oxygenation and nutrition for the sperm, ovum, and zygote should fertilization occur. Okay, the fallopian tube runs in the upper margin of the broad ligament known as mesosalpinx, which encloses the tube so that it is completely covered with the peritoneum except for a narrow strip along the inferior aspect. Each tube, how much it is long? It is 10 centimeter long and it has 4 parts: interstitial portion, isthmus, ampulla, infundibulum, and femoral portion. So the interstitial portion lies within the wall of the uterus, while the isthmus is the narrowest portion adjoining the uterus, and this passes into the widest portion and longest portion, the ampulla. So which one is the widest and the longest portion is the ampulla, and which one is the narrowest portion is the isthmus. Okay, and this in turn terminates in the extremity known as infundibulum, the opening of the tube into the peritoneal cavity, and is surrounded by the finger-like processes called the fimbrium. into which the muscle coat does not extend, and the inner surface of the femora are covered by the ciliated epithelium that is similar to that of the lining of the fallopian tube itself. One of these femora is longer than the others and extends to and partially embrace the ovary at the time of ovulation. It also wants to collect the egg that is released from the ovary. The muscular fibers of the wall of the tube are arranged in inner circular and outer longitudinal layers. Okay, the tubal epithelium forms a number of branched folds and plica that run longitudinally, and the lumen of the ampulla is almost filled with these folds. The folds have a cellular stroma, but at their bases the epithelium is only separated from the muscle by a very scanty amount of stroma. There is no mucosa and there are no glands. The epithelium of the fallopian tubes contains two functioning cell types. Which one? Ciliated cells, which act to produce constant current of fluid in the direction of the uterus, and the secretory cells, which contribute to the volume of the tubal fluid, and changes occur under the influence of menstrual cycle, but there is no cell shedding during menstruation. No cell shedding. Okay, remember, although it's never asked in MCQ, but just to remember. So one cell is the ciliated cell and the second cell is the secretory cells. Okay, next is the ovaries. The size and appearance of the ovaries depends on both the age and the stage of the menstrual cycle. Okay, in childhood, the ovaries are small structures, 1.5 centimeter long. This is in childhood, and they increase to the adult size puberty due to proliferation of the stromal cells and commencing maturation of the ovarian follicles. In the young adult, the almond shape by a 3 centimeter long, 1.5 centimeter wide, and the 1 centimeter thick. After the menopause, no active. This again can be a MCQ, like almond shape and its measurements. After the menopause, no active follicles are present, and ovary becomes smaller with a wrinkled surface. The ovary is the only intra-abdominal structure not to be covered by the peritoneum. Remember, is the only intra-abdominal structure not to be covered by peritoneum. Okay, again, very important point. Each ovary is attached to the corner of the uterus by the ovarian ligament at the hilum to the broad ligament by the mesovarium. Okay, ovarian ligament at the hilum to the broad ligament at the mesovarium, but which contains its supply of the nerves and the blood vessels. Laterally, each ovary is attached to the suspensory ligament of the ovary and with folds of the peritoneum that becomes continuous with that of the overlying os major. So anterior to the ovaries lie the fallopian tubes and the superior portion of the bladder and the uterovesical pouch, and posterior to the ovaries lies the ureter, where it runs downward and forwards in front of the internal iliac artery. So the structure of the ovary has a central vascular medulla, consists of loose connective tissues containing many elastin fibers and non-striated muscle cells, and it has an outer thicker cortex denser than the medulla. Okay, consisting of network of reticular fibers and fusiform cells, although there is no clear-cut demarcation between the two, and the surface of the ovary is covered by a single layer of cuboidal cells, the germinal epithelium, and beneath this is an ill-defined layer of condensed connective tissue that is called tunica albuginea, which increases intensity with age. At birth, numerous primordial follicles are found, mostly in the cortex, but some are found in the medulla. With puberty, some form each month into the Graafian follicle under gonadotrophic control and to ovulate and subsequently form corpus luteum and ultimately the atretic follicles, the corpora albicans. Okay, next is bladder, urethra, and ureter. What about bladder? The bladder wall is made up of involuntary muscle cells arranged in inner longitudinal layer, middle circular layer, and an outer longitudinal layer. It is lined with the transitional epithelium and has an average so its epithelium is transitional. So has an average capacity of 400 ml. The ureters open into the base of the bladder after running medially for about 1 centimeter through the bladder wall. The urethra leaves the bladder below the ureteric orifices. The triangular area lying between the ureteric orifices and the internal meatus of the urethra is known as trigone. At the internal meatus, the middle layer of the muscle forms anterior and posterior loops around the neck of the bladder, and some fibers of the loops being continuous with the circular muscles of the urethra. The base of the bladder is adjacent to the cervix with only a thin layer of tissue intervening, and it is separated from the anterior vaginal wall below by the pubocervical fascia that stretches from the pubis to the cervix. This pubocervical fascia is very important because its defect causes cystocele. Okay, next is the urethra. So the pubocervical fascia, I think it should be highlighted. Urethra. Female urethra is about 3.5 centimeter long, 3.5 centimeter long, and is lined with the transitional epithelium. It has slightly posterior angulation at the junction of its lower and the middle third. The smooth muscle of its walls is arranged in outer longitudinal and the inner circular layers. As the urethra passes through the two layers of the urogenital diaphragm, it is embraced by the striated muscle fibers of the deep transverse perineal muscles, also known as the compressor urethrae. Or some of the striated fibers of the muscles form a loop on the urethra, and between the muscular coat and the epithelium is a plexus of the veins, and there are a number of tubular mucus glands, and in lower part of the number of crepes that occasionally become infected. It in its upper two-third, the urethra is separated from the symphysis by the loose connective tissue, but in its lower third, it is attached to the pubic ramus on each side by strong bands of the fibrous tissue called the pubourethral tissue. This is the pubourethral tissue. And posteriorly, it is firmly attached in its lower two-thirds of the to the anterior vaginal wall. This means that the upper part of the urethra is mobile, but the lower part is relatively fixed. Medial fibers of the pubococcygeus of the levator ani muscles are inserted into the urethra and vaginal wall. When they contract, they pull the anterior vaginal wall and the upper part of the urethra forwards, forming an angle of about 100 degree. So this angle is very important, angle of about 100 degree between the posterior wall of the urethra and the bladder base, because this loss of this angle causes incontinence. So on voluntary voiding of the urine, the base of the bladder and the upper part of the urethra descent, and posterior angle disappears, so that the base of the bladder and the posterior wall of the urethra come to lie in a straight line. So its anatomy is very important, like starting from this part, that in its upper two-third, urethra is separated from the pubic symphysis by the loose connective tissue, and starting from this, it is very important, like this portion. Okay, like in its upper two-thirds, urethra is separated from the symphysis pubis by loose connective tissue, but its lower third, it is attached to the pubic ramus on each side by strong band called the pubourethral tissue, and posteriorly it is firmly attached to its lower two-thirds of the anterior vaginal wall, and this means that the upper part of the urethra is mobile, but the lower part is relatively fixed. So the medial fibers of the pubococcygeus muscle are inserted into the urethra and the vaginal wall. When they contract, they pull the anterior vaginal wall and the upper part of the urethra forward, forming an angle. ठीक है, अब ये कौन से फाइबर्स हैं जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करें? प्यूबोकॉक्सीजियस ऑफ द लिवेटर एनाई मसल्स आर इंसर्टेड इनटू द. अब ये मसल्स अगर डैमेज होंगे, जैसे कि डिलीवरी के दौरान डैमेज हो सकते हैं, इनकी नर्व सप्लाई डैमेज हो सकती है, तो दे ऑल्सो कॉज स्ट्रेस इनकॉन्टिनेंस. ठीक है. The into the urethra vaginal wall, when they contract, they pull the anterior vaginal wall and the upper part of the urethra forward, forming an angle of about 100 degree between posterior wall of the urethra and the bladder base. Okay, now the ureter comes to the ureter. As the ureter crosses the pelvic brim, it lies in front of the bifurcation of the common iliac artery. So it runs downward and forward on the lateral wall of the pelvis to reach the pelvic floor, and then passes inwards and forwards attached to the peritoneum to the back of the broad ligament to pass beneath the uterine artery. It next passes forward through a fibrous tunnel, the ureteric canal, in the upper part of the cardinal ligament. Finally, it runs close to the lateral vaginal fornix to enter the trigone of the bladder, and its blood supply is derived from the small branches of the ovarian artery from a small vessel arising near the iliac bifurcation from a branch of the uterine artery, where it crosses beneath it and forms small branches of the vesical artery. Okay, so when the ureter crosses the, again I am repeating it, the ureter crosses the pelvic brim, it lies in front of the bifurcation of the common iliac artery. But when we talk about the uterine artery, it is under the uterine artery. Okay, it is under the uterine artery, but when it crosses at the brim, it is above the bifurcation of the common iliac artery. Okay. So ureteric damage during hysterectomy, because of its close relationship to the cervix, the vault of the vagina and the uterine artery, the ureter may be damaged during hysterectomy. And apart from being cut or tied in radical procedures, the ureter may undergo necrosis because of the interference with its blood supply, and it may be displaced by the scar tissue or by fibromyalgia or cysts that are growing between the layers of the broad ligament, and may suffer injury if its position is not noticed at surgery. So according to the 10 teachers, ureters damaged at near the cervix, vault of the vagina and the uterine artery during hysterectomy. So okay, what about rectum? The rectum extends from the level of the third sacral vertebra to the point about 2.5 centimeter in front of the coccyx, and where it passes through the pelvic floor to become continuous with the anal canal. So the rectum is started from the third sacral vertebra and about 2.5 centimeter of the in front of the coccyx, where it passes through the pelvic floor to become continuous with the anal canal, and its direction follows the curve of the sacrum and is about 11 centimeter in length. And the front and sides are covered by the peritoneum of the rectovaginal pouch. In the middle third, only the front is covered by the peritoneum. In the lower third, there is no peritoneal covering, and the rectum is separated from the posterior wall of the vagina by the रेक्टोवेजिनल फेशियल सेप्टम. सो दिस इज़ अगेन, जैसे ऊपर मैंने आपको बताया कि प्यूबो सर्वाइकल फेशिया का डिफेक्ट होता है जिसकी वजह से सिस्टोसील होती है, तो यहाँ पर क्या होता है, रेक्टोवेजिनल फेशिया जो है इसके डिफेक्ट की वजह से रेक्टोसील होगी. ठीक है ना. लेटरल टू द रेक्टम आर द यूट्रोसैक्रल लिगामेंट्स बिसाइड विच रन सम ऑफ द लिम्फेटिक्स ड्रेनिंग द सर्विक्स एंड द विजाइना. So next is the pelvic diaphragm. So pelvic diaphragm is formed by the levator and high muscle, which are broad flat muscles of the fibers which pass downward and inwards. The two muscles, one on either side, constitute the pelvic diaphragm. The muscles arise by linear origin from the following points: lower part of the body of the pubis, internal surface of the parietal pelvic fascia along the white line, and the pelvic surface of the ischial spine. About the pelvic floor, levator and eye muscles are inserted into the following points: the preanal raphe and the central point of the perineum, where one muscle meets the other on the opposite side. ठीक है. The wall of the anal canal where the fibers blend with the deep external sphincter muscles, the post anal and the anococcygeal raphe where again one muscle meets the other on the opposite side, the lower part of the coccyx, and the muscle is described in two parts. Pubococcygeus, which arises from the pubic bone, and the anterior part of the tendinous arch of the pelvic fascia, the white line. The iliococcygeus muscle, which arises from the posterior part of the tendinous arch and the ischial spine. Now, about the medial border of the pubococcygeus muscle pass on either side of the pubic bone to the preanal raphe, and they thus embrace the vagina and on contraction have some sphincteric action, and the nerve supply is from the third and fourth sacral nerves. कहाँ से आ रही है इसकी nerve supply? थर्ड एंड फोर्थ sacral nerve से. Okay. The pubococcygeus muscles support the pelvic and abdominal viscera, including the bladder. The medial edge passes beneath the bladder and runs laterally to the urethra, into which some of the fibers are inserted, and together with the fibers from the opposite muscle, they form a loop that maintain the angle between the posterior aspect of the urethra and the bladder base. That angle is of 100 degree that we read above. Okay. During micturition, this loop relaxes to allow the bladder neck and upper urethra to open and descend. Okay. What about the urogenital diaphragm? The urogenital diaphragm, also known as the triangular ligament, is made up of two layers of the pelvic fascia that fill gap between the descending pubic ramus and lies beneath the levatorni muscles. The deep transverse perineal muscles, compressor urethra, lie between the two layers of the diaphragm, is spaced by the urethra and the vagina. No, not that much important. And what about the perineal body? Is a mass of muscular tissue that lies between the anal canal and the lower third of the vagina. Its apex is at the lower end of the rectovaginal septum, and at the point where the perineal body is the third level 3 support of the vagina. Okay, remember. So level 3 support of the vagina is the perineal body. So it is made up of, it is a muscular tissue, mass of muscular tissue that lies between the anal canal and the lower third of the vagina. Its apex is at the lower end of the rectovaginal septum, at the point where the rectum and posterior vaginal wall comes into contact, and the base is covered with the skin and extends from the fossa to the anus. So it is the point of insertion of the superficial perineal muscles and is bounded above by the levatorni muscles, and where they come into contact in the midline between the posterior general wall and the rectum. So about the pelvic peritoneum, the peritoneum is reflected from the lateral borders of the uterus to form on either side a double fold of the peritoneum, the broad ligament. Despite the name, this is not a ligament but a peritoneal fold, and it does not support the uterus. The fallopian tube, they are talking about pelvic peritoneum. Okay? The fallopian tubes runs in the upper free edge of the broad ligament as far as the point at which the tube opens into the peritoneal cavity, and the part of the broad ligament that is lateral to the opening is called the infundibulopelvic fold, and in it ovarian vessels and nerves pass from the side of the wall to the pelvis to lie between the two layers of the broad ligament. Okay? The mesosalpinx, the portion of the broad ligament that lies above the ovary, is layered. Between its layers are seen any Wolffian remnants that may remain. Below the ovary, the base of the broad ligament widens out and contains a considerable amount of the loose connective tissue called the parametrium. So this is about the parametrium below the ovary, the base of the broad ligament. So base of the broad ligament, the loose connective tissue is called the parametrium. The ureter is attached to the posterior leaf of the broad ligament at this point. So very important. The ovary is attached to the posterior layer of the broad ligament by short mesentery, the mesovarium, through which ovarian vessels and nerves enter the hilum. Okay, next is the ovarian ligament and the round ligament. The ovarian ligament lies beneath the posterior layer of the broad ligament and passes from the medial pole of the ovary to uterus and just below the point of entry of the fallopian tube. The round ligament is the continuation of the same structure and runs forward under anterior leaf of the peritoneum to enter the inguinal canal, ending in the subcutaneous tissue of the labium majus. Okay, the pelvic fascia and the pelvic cellular tissue. Connective tissue fills the irregular spaces between the various pelvic organs. Much of its loose cellular tissue, but in some places it is condensed to form the strong ligaments that contain some smooth muscle fibers and which form the facial sheaths that enclose the various viscera. The pelvic arteries, veins, lymphatics, nerves, and ureters run through it, and the cellular tissue is continuous above the extraperitoneal tissue of the abdominal wall, but below it is cut off from the ischiorectal fossa by the pelvic fascia and the levator ani muscles. The pelvic fascia may be regarded as a specialized part of this connective tissue and has parietal and the visceral component. The parietal pelvic fascia lines the wall of the pelvic cavity, covering the obturator and the pyramidalis muscle, and the thickened tendinous arch known as white line lies on the side wall of the pelvis. It is here that the levator ani muscle arises and the cardinal ligament gains its lateral attachment. Where the parietal pelvic fascia encounters bone, as in the pubic region, and it blends with the periosteum, and it also forms the upper layer of the urogenital diaphragm, and each viscus has the facial sheath that is dense in case of the vagina and the cervix and at the base of the bladder, but is tenuous or absent over the body of the uterus and the dome of the bladder. From the point of view the gynecologist, certain parts of the visceral fascia are very important, like which ones? The cardinal ligament, जिसे हम transverse cervical ligament भी कहते हैं, and provide the essential support of the uterus to the vaginal wall, and there are two strong fan-shaped fibromuscular bands that passes from the cervix to the vaginal wall and the vaginal wall to the side wall of the pelvis on either side. These are the cardinal ligaments. Next is very important, that is uterosacral ligament, run from the cervix and the vaginal wall to the sacrum, and in erect position they are almost vertical in direction and support the cervix, and the bladder is supported laterally by condensation of the bladder. About the bladder is supported laterally by condensation of the visceral pelvic fascia on each side and by the sheath of the cervical fascia which lies beneath it anteriorly. ये अगेन वही बात जो मैं आपको पहले बता रही थी कि प्यूबो सर्वाइकल फेशिया जिसके डिफेक्ट की वजह से सिस्टोसील होगी, तो दे कैन आस्क दिस. इसमें अभी इनको वैसे रेक्टो वजाइनल फेशिया की भी बात करनी चाहिए थी जो हमने ऊपर पढ़ा, बट इट्स नॉट मेंशन्ड हियर. Arteries supplying the pelvic organs, because the ovary develops on the posterior abdominal wall and later migrates down into the pelvis, it carries its blood supply with its directly from the abdominal aorta, and ovarian it can be the MCQ regarding its blood supply. ठीक है, the ovarian artery arises from the aorta just below the renal artery and run downwards on the surface of the psoas muscle to the pelvic brim, where it crosses in front of the ureter and then passes into the infundibulopelvic fold of the broad ligament. The artery divides into branches that supply the ovary and the tube and then run on the each side of the uterus, where they anastomose with the terminal branches of the uterus. Internal iliac artery. This vessel is about 4 cm in length at the bifurcation of the common iliac artery in front of the sacroiliac joint, and it soon divides into anterior and posterior branches. The branches that supply the pelvic organs are all from the anterior division. Okay, and what are the branches are as follows. The uterine artery provides the main blood supply to the uterus, and the artery first run downward on the lateral wall of the pelvis in the same direction as the ureter, and it runs inwards and forwards lying in the base of the broad ligament, and on reaching the wall of the uterus the artery turns upward to run tortuously to the upper part of the uterus, where it anastomoses with the ovarian artery. In this part of its course, it sends many branches into the substance of the uterus. The uterine artery supplies to the branch to the ureter as it crosses it, and shortly afterwards another branch is given off to supply the cervix and upper vagina. So the vaginal artery runs at a lower level to supply the vagina. The vesical arteries are variable in number and supply the bladder and terminal ureter. Okay, one usually runs in the roof of the urinary canal. These pictures are important, please do them. Okay, blood supply of the pelvis and the perineum. The middle rectal artery often arises in common and with the lowest vesical artery. And the pudendal artery leaves the pelvic cavity through the sciatic foramen, and after winding around the ischial spine enters the ischial fossa, where it gives off the inferior rectal artery, and it terminates in the perineal and vulval arteries, supplying the erectile tissue of the vestibule of the bulge and the clitoris. So the superior rectal artery, this artery is the continuation of the inferior mesenteric artery and descends into the base of the mesocolon, and it divides into two branches that runs on each side of the rectum and supply numerous branches to it. Now about the veins. The veins around the bladder, uterus, vagina and rectum from the plexus and intercommunicate freely. Venous drainage from the uterine, vaginal and the vesical plexus is chiefly into the internal iliac veins. Venous drainage from the rectal plexus is via the superior rectal veins to the inferior mesenteric veins, and the middle and inferior rectal veins to the internal pudendal veins, so the iliac veins. The ovarian veins on each side begin in the pampaniform plexus, which lies between the layers of the broad ligament. At first, there are two veins on each side accompanying the corresponding ovarian artery. Higher up, the vein becomes single with that on the right side ending in the inferior vena cava, that on the left side the left renal vein. This point is very important for the MCQ point of view. This one, ठीक है, इसको अच्छे तरीके से कर लें कि ओवेरियन वेन्स जो हैं वो ऑन ईच साइड दे एक तो बिगिन इन द पेम्पेनिफॉर्म प्लेक्सस विच लाई between the layers of the broad ligament, and at first there are two veins on each side accompanying corresponding the ovarian artery, and higher up the vein becomes single with that on the right side ending in the right side पे कहाँ पर जा रही है, inferior vena cava में, और left side पे कहाँ जा रही है, left renal vein में. ठीक है, लेफ्ट रीनल वेन, लेफ्ट जो है वो रीनल वेन में जा रही है, लेफ्ट एल आर लेफ्ट साइड पे रीनल वेन पे, और जो राइट साइड है आर आई राइट साइड पे जो है वो इन्फीरियर वेना केवा में जा रही है. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, एमसीक्यू में पूछा भी जा सकता है. ठीक है, पेल्विक लिम्फेटिक्स क्या है. लिम्फेटिक ड्रेनेज फ्रॉम ऑल लोअर एक्सट्रीमिटीज एंड द वल्वा एंड द पेरिनियल रीजन इज ऑल फिल्टर्ड थ्रू द इंग्वाइनल एंड द सुपरफिशियल फेमरल नोड्स before continuing along the deep pathways on the side walls of the pelvis. One deep chain passes upwards lateral to the major vessels, forming in turn the external iliac, common iliac and the para-aortic group of nodes. Okay, medially another chain of the vessels passes from the deep femoral nodes through the femoral canal to obturator and internal iliac group of nodes. So from deep femoral nodes through the femoral canal to the obturator and internal iliac group of nodes, and these last nodes are spread among the origins of the branches of the internal iliac artery, receiving the lymph directly from the organs supplied by this artery, including upper vagina, cervix and the body of the uterus. From the internal iliac and the common iliac nodes, afferent vessels pass through the para-aortic chains, and finally all lymphatic drainage from the legs and pelvis flows into the lumbar lymphatic trunks and cisterna chyli at the level of second lumbar vertebra. तो कहाँ तक जा रहा है, second lumbar vertebra. From here all lymph is carried through by the thoracic duct through the thorax with no intervening nodes to empty into the junction of the left subclavian and internal jugular vein. ठीक है, कहाँ तक जा रहे हैं, लेफ्ट सबक्लेवियन तक जा रहे हैं, और फिर फाइनली इनटू द इंटरनल जुगुलर वेन. Tumor cells that penetrate or bypass the pelvic and para-aortic nodes are rapidly disseminated via the great veins at the root of the neck. तो ट्यूमर स्प्रेड जो है ना वहाँ तक हो, इसीलिए हम सुपर क्लेविकुलर नोड्स को चेक करते हैं फॉर ट्यूमर के लिए. Lymphatic drainage from the genital tract. The lymph vessels from the individual part of the genital tract drain into this system of the pelvic nodes in the following manner. The vulva and the perineum medial to the labius crural skin folds contain superficial lymphatics that pass upwards towards mons pubis, then curve laterally to the superficial and inguinal nodes, and drainage from these is through the fossa ovalis into the deep femoral nodes, the largest of these lying in the upper part of the femoral canal known as node of Cloacae. The lymphatics of the lower third of the vagina follow the vulval drainage to the superficial lymph nodes. From these upper two-thirds pass upwards to join the lymphatic vessels of the cervix. So the lymphatics of the cervix pass either laterally in the base of the broad ligament or posteriorly along the uterosacral ligament to reach the side wall of the pelvis, and most of these vessels drain into the internal iliac obturator and external iliac nodes. But vessels also pass directly to the common iliac capillary lower para-aortic nodes. Radical surgery for the carcinoma of the cervix should include removal of all these node groups. Okay? Most of the lymphatic vessels of the body of the uterus join those of the cervix and therefore reach the similar group of the nodes. A few vessels at the fundus follow the ovarian channel, and there is inconsistent pathway along the round ligament to the inguinal nodes. The ovary and the fallopian tube have a plexus of vessels that drain along the infundibulopelvic fold to the para-aortic nodes on both sides of the midline. On the left side, these are found around the left renal pedicle, and while on the right side, there may only be one node intervening before the lymph flows into the thoracic duct, thus accounting for the rapid early spread metastatic carcinoma to the distant sites such as lungs. The lymphatic drainage of the bladder, upper urethra to the iliac nodes, while those of the lower part of the urethra follow those of the vulva. And the lymphatics from the lower anal canal to the superficial inguinal nodes and remainder of the rectal drainage follows the pararectal channel, accompanying the blood vessels to both the internal iliac nodes and the para-aortic nodes and the origin of the inferior mesenteric artery. So about the nerve supply of the vulva and the perineum, the pudendal nerve arises from the second, third and fourth sacral nerves, and as it passes through along the outer wall of the ischiorectal fossa, and it gives off an inferior rectal branch and divides into the perineal nerve and dorsal nerve of the clitoris. The perineal nerve gives the sensory supply of the vulva, also intervenes the anterior part of the external anal canal and the levator ani and the superficial perineal muscles. The dorsal nerve of the clitoris is sensory. Okay, dorsal nerve is sensory. Sensory fibers from the mons labia also pass in the ilioinguinal and genitofemoral nerve. These sensory fibers के लिए भी this point is also important. The sensory fibers from the mons labia also pass to the ilioinguinal and genitofemoral nerves to the first lumbar root. The posterior femoral cutaneous nerve carries sensation from the perineum to the small sciatic nerve and thus to the first, second and third sacral nerves. The main nerve supply of the levator ani muscles comes from the third, fourth sacral nerves. Nerve supply of the pelvic viscera. The innervation of the pelvic viscera is complex and not well understood. All pelvic viscera receive innervation both sympathetic and parasympathetic. Nerve fibers of the pre-aortic plexus of the sympathetic nervous system are continuous with those of the superior hypogastric plexus, and which lies in front of the last lumbar vertebra and is wrongly called presacral nerve. Below this, the superior hypogastric plexus divides on each side. Its fibers are continuous with the fibers passing beside the rectum to join the uterovaginal plexus and inferior hypogastric plexus, or the plexus of the Frankenhauser. And this plexus lies in the loose cellular tissue posterolateral to the cervix below the uterosacral folds to the peritoneum. Parasympathetic fibers from the second, third and fourth sacral nerves joins the uterovaginal plexus, and fibers from or to the bladder, uterus, vagina or rectum join the plexus, and the uterovaginal plexus contains a few ganglion cells, so it is likely that a few motor cells also have their relay station there and then pass onward with the blood supply onto the viscera. Okay, the ovary is not innervated by the nerves, also already described, but from the ovarian plexus that surrounds the ovarian vessels and joins the pre-aortic plexus high up. Okay, so these are the key points. Key points are related to them. This adult uterus consists of three layers: peritoneum, myometrium, and endometrium. The cervix is narrower than the body of the uterus, is approximately 2.5 centimeter. Ureter runs about 1 centimeter lateral to the cervix. Ovary is the and only intraperitoneal structure that is not covered by the peritoneum. The main supports of the pelvic floor are connective tissue and the levator and eye muscle. The main supports of the uterus are the uterosacral and the cardinal ligaments, which are condensation of the connective tissue. The ovarian arteries arise directly from the aorta, while the right ovarian vein drains into the vena cava and the left into the left renal vein. This last point is very important for the MCQ. Okay, girls. Good luck.